Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the starship Enterprise. Its 5-year mission to explore
5
strange new
years.
worlds,
Good Lord.
to seek out new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no man has gone before.
It is the world famous Jiggy Jaguar radio broadcast, Sunday radio broadcast with you. In this next segment, we're going to talk to Dan Perkins. He's a nationally recognized expert on radical Islam and contributor to Daily Caller, Flash Daily, Daily Surge, and The Hill. Perkins is a registered investment advisor with over 40 years of investment experience investing in all asset classes all over the world. And he's going to be with us here on the old Skype-a-rooney. We took an extended break because I was trying to get our old Skype-a-rooney up and running. Had a little bit of issues with the old skip today. But we're back and running. And pull in Mr. Dan Perkins here in a few moments. Big-time television star Dan Perkins. Star, stage, and screen Dan Perkins. I've been seeing him all over the freaking place. He's been, on these Chinese stations and Asian stations. And I guess Chinese and Asian are kind of the same thing, aren't they? I don't know. They'd be a little mad at me if they heard me calling them the Chinese stations. Yes, Jiggy Jag, the ugly American with you. Chinese stations. That's awesome. I gotta call him on the Chinese stations. Well, invalid phone number. Let's try this one. Let's try Dan Perkins, the big star. Dan Perkins. In fact, let's do this. Let me go find the email that's got his phone number. See, usually I just call Dan Perkins on Skype. But apparently I must call Dan Perkins at a different number. You must call Dan Perkins at a different number, so I will call him at a different number. Dan usually joins us on our weekday broadcast each week. There we are. I was picking my nose. That's Dan Perkins right there. But I gotta find Dan Perkins. I gotta find the legendary Dan Perkins. Supposed to see where Dan Perkins is at.
Hello.
There's Dan Perkins. How are you, sir?
I'm fine.
I was calling you for your radio interview. How are you today?
I am fine. Did you see my latest note?
I did see your latest TV appearance.
Yes. Did I tell you that I don't think I've talked to you since no, I know I haven't.
No, because we were off last
I've been approached by Newsmax.
Wow.
To write for them. So I'm in the process of writing my first article for them.
You're literally going to be just all over the damn place, aren't you, my friend?
Well, what I'm doing is a Newsmax 11 million page views. Between Newsmax and Laura and The Hill and the Daily Caller and Flash Daily, I'm on some of the biggest sites on the internet.
It's a hell of a deal. Well, see, that's why I wanted to have you on today. We're going to do a twofer today because we're going to be talking with Dan on the regular show a little bit later on today. But we also wanted to get him on for our iHeart presentation today. And one of the big stories out there, Dan, is this top military officer says the U.S. is ready to use, quote, full range of military capabilities. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff on Monday said the U.S. military is ready amid heightened tensions with North Korea. General Joseph Dunford said the U.S. is prepared to use its full range of military capabilities if necessary, according to the Associated Press. What do you make of this whole thing?
Well, I think we have a history in this country of our presidents, starting with Bill Clinton, including Republicans, who have kicked the can of dealing with North Korea down the road. And Mr. Trump finally said, no, not anymore. You're not going to threaten our country with your nuclear weapons and your testing. And so he stood up to Kim, and things got pretty tight. And this morning, we had a situation where Mr. Kim decided that he was putting his plans to attack Guam on hold for a while, just in time, and literally just in time for the Iranians to come out and say, look, if you put any more sanctions on us, we're going to speed up our nuclear development. And by the way, we can be up and running in hours, not days, months, or years, hours. So we have two countries that have had tremendous influence over the presidency in the United States and the United States foreign policy come after Mr. Trump. One's back down. We'll see what the other one will do. But it's the price we're paying, Jim, for the fact that for 8 years we had an administration whose philosophy was to lead from behind.
Yes. Yes, we've got the great Dan Perkins with us today. He joins us live here on our big broadcast. And U.S. military spokesman Captain Darren James said that Dunford stressed that North Korea's ballistic missile and nuclear weapons program threaten the entire global community. And Dan, this is a hell of a deal because you mentioned this earlier. We just keep kicking the can down the road.
Right.
Clinton, Bush, everybody is just like, it's somebody else's problem. Obama, it's somebody else's problem.
Right.
Is there some reason why I guess the point I'm trying to make is that whether it's Republicans or Democrats, they've all basically said, not on me.
Right. That's right. And Trump's saying, no, it stops here. And I don't think the world, up until perhaps this morning, believed that Trump wasn't going to capitulate and do like everybody else, that he was going to bow to the North Koreans, or in this case, the Iranians. And I think when the Koreans realized he wasn't going to back down, they said, whoops, what do we do now? How do we save face, or try to save face, and extricate ourselves? And I think that part of the issues, and I talked about this in the Friday night television show, if you look at the numbers, you get a totally different story. For example, the gross domestic product, and I have to preface this, Jim, by saying it's difficult to estimate because North Korea is an extremely closed society.
Yes.
And as a result, most of what I'm going to tell you are educated guesses. But the economy, the GDP of North Korea is about equal to the GDP of Lake Tahoe, Nevada.
Wow.
And or Reno. It's very small, about $20 billion. Their budget is about $10 billion a year. They spend at least $3 billion of that on military. I think more. They export about, again, be careful listening to the numbers. Their total exports for a year are approximately $2.8 billion. Their imports are about $3.6 billion. China is responsible for about 90% of their exports, and that was before China stopped buying coal, which was 34% of their total exports. What we have, Jim, in $2.6 billion of exports, a country that China is its biggest trading partner, over 90%. China ships to the United States in about 38 hours. 38 hours, equal to 100% of what they import from North Korea in a year. So if you think about the Chinese, and now you've got Mr. Trump who's showing a little more chutzpah, do the Chinese want to risk a relationship with the United States that there could be significant import sanctions placed on them for 38 hours worth of business?
That's a hell of a deal. We've got Dan Perkins with us today. He joins us live here on iHeartRadio, also RadioZenu.com today, and discussing this North Korea situation. Besides North Korea, I know that you've been writing a lot of stories for the various websites, and you've been involved in a lot of the various this television project that you were involved in on Friday last week. That was absolutely well done, an amazing deal. What other stories are people missing out there because they're just paying attention to the North Korea thing?
Well, they're doing two things. They're paying attention to the North Korean thing. For a while, they're going to pay attention to Iran. But it's what they're not paying attention to, Jim, is part of the issue.
Okay.
We have become the Democratic media has become so obsessed, like the Democrats, over this Russian thing, is that they are not reporting what's going on in the country. Now, we look at the president in his first 7 months has created 1 million new jobs, and the money that he's brought in, and energy prices the lowest level for the summertime in 15 years, and on and on and on. The mainstream media is not reporting any of that because it reflects favorably. And I'm sitting here at my desk talking to you, and here's the title of a piece that I'm writing right now. Democrats on North Korea blinking against Trump. Damn. See, what's happening is that every time Mr. Trump finds himself in a situation where he is being forced into a situation like, for example, North Korea, the Democrats don't want him to get any press. The Democrats don't want him to get any credit whatsoever. So the Democrats are trying to use North Korea as a way to discredit the president, because they have this mission to prove that he's not capable of being president of the United States. And so they're using North Korea, and they're criticizing the president for, what he said to Kim when he said their reactions will be met with fire and fury like the world has never seen. And you know what? I bet you when he said that, there were tens of millions of Americans who heard it and stood up and yelled, "Yes, sir." It's about time somebody stood up for this country. So this may very well be a defining moment, not only for Trump's first term, but for his entire presidency. And the Democrats are losing the battle because he continues to demonstrate that while he's a little brash and he's a little rough,
yes,
the people who support him don't care, and people who look at the fact that we had a president who wanted to lead from behind for 8 years, and this one wants to stand up in front and lead the charge, more and more Americans are liking that, and the Democrats are in deeper and deeper trouble.
Well, we've got Dan Perkins with us today, danperkins.guru. If you want to get a hold of the fantastic Dan Perkins and all of his books and everything else, Songs for Stories for Soldiers is his nonprofit. And one more topic I want to discuss with you, Dan, before we let you go, and that is this stuff that happened over the weekend with the racists and the people, all these different people that are marching and all these various things. According to the media, that's what they're being called. The thing
okay,
that I'm
now,
okay.
Go ahead.
The thing I'm trying to figure out is, what is this deal with knocking down the statues everywhere? Why do we have to conceal our history? What is this all about? Why are we trying to cover up history? Good or bad?
Well, you're probably not gonna believe this, but on my side screen is an article that I'm writing also, because I write for 7 blogs. I have to spread it around.
Yes.
Or I guess 8 now with Newsmax. And the title of this article: Who are we?
Yeah.
Who are we? The events in Charlottesville this past weekend raised a very important question. Who are we? The events in this southern town and many places around the nation are trying to revise who we are as a people and a nation by abandoning the signs and symbols from our past.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Savage, the national talk show host, says that a nation is defined by its borders, its language, and its culture.
Yep.
If we take away the signs and symbols of the American Civil War, what do we replace it with? How do we redefine ourselves if we do not understand that we are a reflection of our past? If we disintegrate our past to eliminate whole sections of our past by ignoring them or saying that they're not relevant, then it changes who we are as a nation. And so what I'm trying to say in this particular article is that our past is important. Good, bad, or ugly, it's important because it helps us define us, who we are as a nation. If we take away our past, then we have no past. Then what could our future possibly ever be?
And see, that's the thing. I don't understand this whole, oh, well, this is bad. Cover it up. Get rid of it. And I'm like, what? What are you people trying to do here? That's the thing that I just don't understand about all this.
What the protesters, in my opinion, what they're trying to do is that they want to eliminate the vestiges at a time in our country where we took a stand. We took a stand for states' rights. We took a stand for slavery and freedom. And they don't want the freedom side. They want to focus on the slavery. The statues of Robert E. Lee that they're tearing down are a reaction to, in some respects, the glorification of the South in the Civil War. But I say in the piece that I'm writing simultaneously, I'm only doing 2 this time at a time. What I'm saying is that if you're going to take down the statues, because those symbols, those physical symbols represent something that's abhorrent to you, then you have to change the names of colleges and universities and libraries and streets and even cities, because they fit the narrative as being representational of what you're against, and that is slavery. And by the way, you'd have to change the nation's capital because even President Washington owned slaves. See, what they're trying to do, Jim, is that they're trying to put in today's context what happened 250 years ago. And you can't do that. Or 150 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, the idea, what was acceptable in the 1700s and the 1800s is obviously not acceptable today. But to go back and try and be revisionist in your history by eliminating all the references to what happened, we forget then that we don't learn what we should have learned from those experiences. And what are we going to teach in school in American history if we eliminate anything to do with the Civil War? What are we going to do there? I saw a video this morning, Jim, where they were taking down they had ropes on this statue of a Civil War general. It was put up in 1927, almost 100 years ago, and they pulled it down, and people were stomping on it and spitting on it.
Yep, I saw that too.
And it reminded me, you know what it reminded me of? When we took over in Iraq, and the statues of Saddam Hussein came down, and the rebels were doing the same thing. Is that what we are, a nation of rebels? Well, we can't use rebel because rebel refers to the South. So we have to come up with a different name.
We have to come up with a different vernacular there.
Right, yes. And so, you know, it seems to me that if we, you know, we gained the reason why people from all over the world have wanted to come to the United States, because it was the land of opportunity. And all those millions of people that came across the border during the Obama administration were looking for a better life. And I understand that. But if we bring people into the United States and we no longer require them to learn the language or the history and culture of this nation, then what are we? Which is why I titled this, Who Are We? I don't know what we are. If we no longer want to be educated by our past, and that our decisions have grown out of what has happened in the past, then what are we? Where is this nation going? When we have no assimilation requirement, no requirement to learn the language, then we're losing that brightness and that opportunity that brought so many millions of immigrants to the United States to want to grow and prosper. And they knew when they came here, they had to learn the language, they had to learn the currencies, they had to learn the laws, and they had to learn the culture. They had to learn how to be an American. And we're no longer requiring that. We're just saying, come on in, do whatever you want to do. And that's why, if we don't know, there's a great Chinese proverb. If you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. And I suspect that for a long time, our country has been lost. It doesn't know where it wanted to go and where it wants to go. And what Donald Trump represents is a rebirth of the idea that it's good to be an American. It's good to be able to say at Christmas time, Merry Christmas. I never forget that when he said that last Christmas. Isn't it, don't you feel good to be able to say that again? Yes, I do. And this is why the people who are supporters of Mr. Trump are so steadfast, and why the people who are against him have to turn to violence in order to try and discredit.
Well, Dan, before we let you go, my friend, at least for this segment, give us an update on the charity and everything.
Songs and Stories for Soldiers.us is now north of 70 institutions and organizations who are supporting our mission, over 12,000 MP3 players. We're doing a presentation in January to the 44 chapters of the Military Officers Association of America, which is made up of 395,000 retired military officers, and these are the 44 chapters in Florida. We're doing a pilot program with them, and hopefully, if we're successful, which I have no doubt that we will be, we can go to the national headquarters in Arlington, Virginia, and begin to talk to hundreds of chapters all over the country.
Holy smokes. Well, congratulations, my friend. I definitely am looking forward to getting more information from you as this goes